Welcome back to this new edition of Komala's interview. Today I have the pleasure and honor to have Sylvain Saluseke with us. Sylvain, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So before we start, I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing and what people know you for.
Okay. Born in Kolwezi, very proud to be born in a part of the DRC. My name is Sylvain Saluseke, as you mentioned. I discovered myself as a serial entrepreneur. And to date, I can barely actually pinpoint a time in my life where I said, I was employed by so-and-so and I was depending on one who. So yeah, I feel myself as a serial entrepreneur. Maybe we'll expand a little bit more what I understand by that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first time I actually met you, I realized that you were a very calm person and you have a very personality that is extremely calm, I would say. So do you sometimes surprise people with that, or is it something that it's just like something in you?
I've always been a shy person first.
Okay.
And I realized as I was growing up that actually I had to do something about it. So from being shy, and every time you have to speak or make a point, you feel as if you are experiencing an out-of-body experience. And I used to think that I'm actually doing worse. So over the time, I tried to sort of learn that. And yeah, so I've kind of sort of tried to work through that. And you know, the worst can happen to anybody anytime is to be dead, and if you're dead, you're dead. So what?
So do you use that in business or
in everything? One of the things I go about is I think I read it. It's a Chinese proverb. I think it says, if you master yourself, if you master others, you become powerful. But if you master yourself, you become fearless. So. In anything I do, even business-wise, when I come and try and tell you about something, I've researched about it.
Okay.
I'm to 100.1% sure about the fact of what I want to talk about. I mean, this is not in any everyday conversations. This is more like I have to come and present a case, and once that is done, I know I've only accomplished the 50% of the outcome.
Okay.
And the other 50 does not depend on me. It's not depend on the other person on the table. So that's my approach to.
That's a good way actually, even to go for business. But let me ask you as well. I know you mentioned that you're a serial entrepreneur.
Yes.
What are the different projects that you're working on now?
I started at quite a young age. I don't know if I should say how old was I by then, but I think I was about 20, 21. My first company registered in Zambia. Within a couple of months, I was able to get clients such as BHP Billiton.
Okay.
If anybody knows about mining, you know, the BHP Billiton, Anglo Gold, those are some of your big mining companies in the world, and yet my company registered in Zambia was one of those which had the how can I put it, the one contract to be able to go and provide them these services in their French countries.
Okay.
So reached a point where you're dealing with BHP and being almost a one-man show, it required that actually what was being presented or offered was actually really adding value to what they were looking for.
Okay.
And we were dealing in health and safety. BHP Billiton, Barrick, some of the companies in the world, they pride themselves about that. You know, these are companies that can shut down an entire operation. It's costing them billions because they have an incident on site. So they really look into that space. And myself operating in the same space, it was a good offering we gave them. You know?
Okay.
Yes. So from Nexus Medical operating out of Zambia, of course, with a partner was in South Africa. Went on starting a company called Global Access, registered in South Africa and in the DRC, and we were primarily offering medical risk management to quite a bigger number of multinational dealing in medical insurance. And then from there on, we just started my new my new best thing, or the best thing to come, which is Kurut resources, focusing primarily on energy, infrastructure, and mining as well.
Okay.
I would love, before I die, to have accomplished two things. One is own a mine, and two, teach at the university.
Nice. But you seem to be very pro-African entrepreneurship. What is your opinion about the whole entrepreneurship topic?
You can be young, looking into business opportunities. I don't care where in the world, and not look at Africa. I'm over optimistic about the continent, and not because I'm from Africa, but that's where the future is. And actually, if you go back in history, not wanting to bring any controversy, real old-time civilizations have been seen that they were in Africa or linked to Africa.
That's true.
So I know we're going back there.
So according to you, what would be the next big innovation that would actually come on the African continent?
I think it's already happening. Even though it's not yet taken by Africans, it's the IT space. You know, by the fact that Africa has done a very huge leapfrog in telecommunication. You know, we went. Some people in Africa never knew what a landline is.
True.
And yet we went from almost no telephone to a cell phone, and today we have the famous M-Pesa out of Kenya. You know, these are some of the things which today in the global, they look at that and say, wow, something is happening. And my view is that's where the next big thing is going to happen from. So not only Africa, by the lack of some of the infrastructure, we present as a platform to come and test these things, but also it's just going to make our lives easier. A couple of days ago, I was watching a link, I think it was 3M or something. It's a new product where these guys are landmarking. They've landmarked the entire globe in a cubic sort of shape of a square, which is allocated, which can be used now not as GPS coordinate, but more of a physical address.
Okay.
If you've been to a place like Khartoum or Nouakchott, basically in Nouakchott you have maybe three or four street with names. That's it. Nice. Anywhere else they have what they call a plot, and you have to find the plot, or you have to be living in the place to know where the place is. Now you look at that, and then second thing for me is we have a huge issue about identifications and know where people are. Look at the blockchain, what it's offering. I think African governments should embrace such technology. It will make our lives a bit more easier. Probably I'm saying this from a medical risk point of view, where I see a huge advantage using technology, not only in controlling things such as cost, but it makes just the operations easy. So I see the bigger impact coming from and by IT altogether.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mainly have a background into the medical industry, but if you had to change, which industry would you go into?
Mining.
Okay.
Definitely mining.
Any particular reason?
Yes.
Or?
One, because I was born in Kurut, which is a mining town, but also mining is one of those industries which have got a bigger impact, not only on the environment, but also it can change lives of people.
The community,
you look at the case of a country like Australia, how mining is make the country. I don't see why other African countries and any other mining countries in the world couldn't emulate and use the same model and build around it. You know, mining companies in Australia are part of those who are building and constructing infrastructure for the country, and they're using them. I've been involved with some mining companies in Africa, First Quantum, I mentioned BHP Billiton and them, on their very close operations. You can see how they rely on infrastructure for them to operate.
Yeah.
Now just imagine if they could go into a PPP with the government. Today back home in Kolwezi, the closest and the cheapest and the shortest route to export all raw materials should be through Angola, which means there's an opportunity, guys.
I understand there is a lot to be built or rebuilt, but for young people or let's say people that grew up or were born in Africa and then moved out for studies or other reasons, where would they start? What would be the starting point?
Starting point is, I'll quote a young lady, a young South African politician, Lindiwe Mazibuko. She left politics in South Africa and she came to do a master's at Harvard. Before she left, she did a TED talk. She said, "I'm not leaving without you." And the plea is, we need to interiorize in our mind and in our thinking that we have to go back. That we have to go back. I know when I say this, everybody asks me, back to what? Before you start thinking of what, just put in your mind, you have to go back. Now, to where or to do what? Remember, this is where you come from, Africa. And then two, opportunities, you have to see them mostly when you are on the ground. So you'll see people struggling, see people having difficulties into connecting their life from one month to the other. All those challenges are actually opportunities.
That's true.
They are all opportunities. So it's for us to see how do we flip the coin and just make it happen. We talk about food. We talk about food, for instance, because we are crying about food today is because we are mostly importing. What if we start doing what you find mostly in New York and other places, small shop here, and they're actually planting stuff on the corner and they're calling it bio. They're calling it, this is the hype thing in the US now, a bio food and bio this. Dude, we've been doing this all along.
That's true.
We don't need any more focusing on wanting to go and have a KFC. Because guys, we have our wild chicken which we have here. I can sell you one. So there's always opportunities, as I'm saying. There's opportunities always there. Of course, challenges are in front of us, but let's go back. Let's work on those challenges. They are in themselves opportunities.
That's true. You've done so many things that I really wonder, what would you have done differently if you had to go back 5 years ago, for example?
5 years ago, what would I have done differently? I'm tempted to say nothing.
Okay.
I'm tempted to say nothing, even though I'll say I would have loved to be a little bit more patient than I was. I mean, right now you're saying I'm calm, but by then I was very fierce in sense of pushing. Okay. So if knowing what I wanted, there was nothing in front of me that would have stopped me. So I would push it, pushing. In the process, I might have alienated other people, but that's probably something I would have looked at differently. But and those people I'm talking about is even in the business world. When you push so hard that the partner start thinking, or the partner or the business partner start thinking, maybe there's ulterior motives behind this push.
Did you ever receive one advice that you kept in mind until now, for example?
I wouldn't point at one thing. I think I've interacted with many people, and one advice, I think, which a friend of mine, she still runs a BNB in Lusaka. In Ndola in Zambia. She said, you have to know what you want out of whoever you meet. Okay. And make sure that you don't go for what is obvious for everybody else. Okay. And a clear example is, if you meet somebody who's rich, for instance, the easy aspect of it is you meet this rich person so that he can give you some money.
Yeah.
I've met rich people in my life, and to date I've never eaten of their single cents. Single, nothing, zero. Because it wasn't the money I was after, it was to go and understand the how they did it. So one has to be able to know what you want to do. Sometimes when you go and meet, for instance, powerful people, rich people, as soon as you come to them, their mindset is, I have money, I have power, how do I use this to resolve your issue? And yet maybe when you're coming to see them, you're not looking after their money or their power.
Yeah.
You live something else altogether. So you need to know that when you're approaching them.
Very interesting. I like to think that collective success is something that will bring the African continent forward. But I also like to hear what other people are thinking about this. So I would love to get your opinion on this. What do you think about?
First of all, well done, and I hope you keep doing this. We need to keep sharing our stories. We need to tell our own stories first. Yeah. And then the reason we're telling the stories is not to glorify ourselves, is for us to show that we can do it. Mm-hmm. If one has done it, the other person can do it. But beyond that, this collective success we're talking about, Mandela said about it, any society which is alienating a bigger chunk of the people, it's unsustainable. You can't have a society where you have a small group that is rich than all the others. And beside that, today, back home in Africa, we are now at the point where we need to go back to the way we somehow used to live in the past, of addressing societal issues together.
True.
And this passes through looking for employment, or building a road, or having a better school system. We keep fighting about our schools back home are not having a bigger or a good standard.
Yeah.
I read a book by Justice Malala, a South African journalist. He said, it's called, I think, we began our descent, talking about South Africa. So as soon as you check out of the system, you are allowing it to fail. So as a community, as soon as we don't want to work together, we will see it will fail. So we have to remain engaged, so collectively we can move forward. And in that collective, then we can now say yes, how much and how far one can have, one can get a benefit, But as a collective, we have to move forward, Otherwise we will all fail and we will all die. We will all perish.
I like that.
Yeah.
So what would be the advice that you would give to youngsters that are willing to go into business, or that maybe already are in business and willing to go forward?
People tend to think business is when you start owning a Lamborghini. Or business is when you land this multi-million dollar contract. Mm-hmm. When you go back home, almost every single young man who's selling his small airtime at the corner of the street is in business.
True.
He is in business.
That's true.
So we need to shift our mind from being employed or having too much money, which will identify as being a business. Once we take out these extremes and understand that actually we've been doing some sort of business, let's build on that. And then the next thing is we'll keep growing. Because the young man who's selling those telephone units at the corner of the street, every night he will do his accounting. In his own mode, he'll do accounting. He'll show the profit. Because he knows if he doesn't make a profit, he won't be able to pay rent. He won't be able to pay for his child. And that's business. So probably the only next thing will be how then do we together, again, once more again, collective success, keep sharing and keep educating ourselves. How do we help such to improve, to extrapolate, to grow a little bit more faster or even bigger? I think that's the bigger challenge. So to anybody who's in business, keep doing it and keep learning. Keep learning in the sense that today we are all now connected, even in our shady, low-speed internet back home. People can still go on internet cafe and go and watch WWF, instead of spending the time and money on WWF, go in there and look for how do I improve my business? There are just so many self-taught videos and training out there that we can actually leverage from. That would be my advice. Keep doing it. Keep learning how to improve it.
Excellent.